Please, just come home. Do you believe these tears? For 6.5 years, Richard Satchwell played the perfect grieving husband. He cried on TV, he begged his wife Tina to come back. He made promises, but it was all an act, the truth? The entire time he was standing on her grave, the missing wife wasn't missing at all. She was buried under concrete, right under their stairs. He stood on that grave and lied to the whole world. Can you imagine that level of cruelty and nerve? Let me know your first reaction in the comments. If you want to watch this sick act get uncovered, layer by layer, subscribe right now to understand how this monster hid his crime. First, we have to understand who he destroyed.
Jaila bandich cho fan tu, jun guyen van fong jon gian, truk tiep va deng he. To understand how this monster hid his crime so well, first, we have to understand who he destroyed. The victim was Tina Satchwell, 45 years old. When you look at her photos, you see a blonde, blue-eyed woman, always smiling. Friends described her as bright, bubbly, and beautiful. But like a lot of people, she was complex. On the outside, she was social, but really, she was quite shy and kept to herself. Her passion was fashion. Upstairs in her house, she kept hundreds of outfits, many with the tags still on. She didn't just shop, she saw clothes as art. Her main social spot was the local car boot sales, where she'd resell her items. But the biggest love of her life? The children she never had. Her 2 chihuahuas, Ruby and Heidi, and her parrot Valentine. Friends rarely saw Tina without her dogs. Her health? Her family doctor of nearly 20 years confirmed it. Completely healthy. No conditions whatsoever that could end her life early. No mental health diagnosis. No psychological problems. Remember that detail. It's important. And then there's Richard Satchwell. He met Tina when she was just 17. He was 22. He was obsessed. He openly called her his trophy wife, someone way out of his league. He'd brag about how he worshipped her, ran her bath 7 nights a week, and rubbed baby oil on her skin. It sounds like devotion, but it was a sick devotion. It was possession. It all started right at the wedding. Richard's family was English and extremely anti-Irish. They gave him an ultimatum. Choose us, or that Irish girl. He chose Tina. He never spoke to his mother again. This act, which seems romantic at first, was really step 1 of isolation. Cut her off from his family. Next, he went after her friends. Tina's half-sister Lorraine described Richard as obsessive, possessive, controlling, and just odd. Anyone Tina tried to befriend, Richard found a problem. He'd criticize, he'd complain, until Tina got tired, and just stopped making friends. Step 2, destroy her social network. Tina once confessed to Lorraine, "I feel trapped. I can never leave. He would follow me to the ends of the earth." Step 3, the cage is complete. In 2016, they moved to 3 Grattan Street, a place where Tina knew no one. She was completely isolated. And here's the cold, hard truth about their family. They lived on social welfare. Richard, the man taking care of his wife, was listed as Tina's dependent. He had 14 prior criminal convictions for things like theft and welfare fraud. A beautiful, isolated wife, kept in a cage by a failed man, a freeloader, and a convict. And yet, on Sunday, March 19, 2017, at her usual car boot sale, Tina was still smiling. She was happy buying a new black jacket. When a friend joked that she should find another man, Tina replied firmly, "I have one man only. I love him so much." Those were tragic words, because that was the last time anyone on the outside would ever hear her voice.
Those were tragic words, because that was the last time anyone on the outside would ever hear her voice. The next day, Monday morning, March 20th, 2017, Richard Satchwell began his act, and this is the official story he told the police. A story so absurd it's laughable. He said he woke up and made Tina breakfast, tea, toast, and his special fruit and yogurt. Then, he said, Tina, his beloved wife, suddenly asked him to do something very strange. She asked him to drive to Aldi, but not the Aldi in their own town. As you'll know, She told him to drive 30 kilometers, about 18 miles, to the faraway town of Dungavan, just to buy fish and parrot food. Do you hear how ridiculous that is? A 1-hour round trip just for parrot food? But Richard said, yes, dear, he left. He said he left at 10 a.m. and got back around noon. And when he got home, boom, Tina was gone, but she didn't just disappear. According to Richard, she took 2 large suitcases and, the most valuable part of his act, she took 26,000 euros in cash, 26,000 euros. Cash. Do you remember what I just said in part 2? What did this couple live on? Social welfare. Richard was Tina's dependent. Their bank account was constantly overdrawn. He had a criminal record for welfare fraud. So where did 26,000 euros in cash come from? Hidden in a box in the attic, Richard said. A blatant lie designed to do what? To make the police think, oh, she was planning to run away. She had money ready. But this is the part that should make you furious. This is the detail that exposes him from day one. Your wife disappears. She takes a huge amount of cash. What does a normal husband do? They call the police immediately. They call her family. They freak out. What did Richard Satchwell do? He waited. 4 days, you heard me right. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. 4 days went by. He didn't call anyone. He lived in that house alone with Tina's dogs for 4 days. He said he was giving her space to get her head straight. 4 days. Is that enough time for a person to panic, or is it enough time for a killer to cover his tracks? It wasn't until March 24th that he casually drove to the police station. And which station did he go to? Did he go to the Youghal station just minutes from his house? No, he drove 43 kilometers to the station in Fermoy, Tina's hometown. Why? He did it for one reason, to support his act. To plant the idea, she must have run off to her family in Fermoy. Police described him as matter-of-fact and not overly emotional. Are you getting frustrated? The lie is so obvious. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about those 4 days of silence? Was it the confusion of an abandoned husband, or the cold calculation of a killer? If you also smell the stench of lies here, if you want to see this man get exposed, don't hesitate, subscribe. Because while the police were casually taking his report and doing nothing, Richard knew he needed to control the story. He began one of the most shameless media campaigns in criminal history. While the police were casually taking his report and doing nothing, Richard knew he needed to control the narrative. He couldn't let it go quiet. He had to turn himself from the suspect into the victim. And so one of the most shameless, sickest media campaigns in criminal history began. Richard didn't just post on Facebook. He called the national TV stations directly. He turned himself into a star. From June 2017 to March 2018, he gave at least 14 major interviews. He was everywhere. RTA Crime Call, Primetime, Virgin Media News. He was uber available to any journalist who would talk to him, and he performed. Oh, he performed perfectly. He looked right into the camera. He cried. The tears came right on cue. Show clip of Richard crying, "Tina, come home. Nobody is mad at you. I just can't go on not knowing." The entire country of Ireland believed him. They cried with him. They prayed for him. He swore on TV3 News, "I have never laid a finger on her in 28 years." He insisted, "One day Tina will turn up." He even made up a story that Tina was unstable and violent after her brother's death, a lie that was rejected by all her friends and medical records. Was playing the role of the devoted husband, caring for a mentally unstable wife. A perfect act. But while Richard was busy crying on TV, his real-life actions told a completely different story. A story that should send a chill down your spine. March 30th, 2017, just 10 days after Tina disappeared. He texted Sarah, Tina's cousin. Did he ask, "Any news about Tina?" No, he texted, "Sarah, do you want our big chest freezer?" A chest freezer? Why? Why a chest freezer? Why was he in such a hurry to get rid of it, just 10 days after his wife vanished? The next day he posted an ad for it online. Large chest freezer free to take away. Working perfect, just needs a clean. The frustration doesn't stop there. In late April, just a few weeks later, where was Richard found? At the same car boot sales that Tina loved. What was he doing? He was selling her things. He was selling her clothes. Her Dr. Martens boots. Her handbags. He was selling the belongings of the wife he was missing on TV to make a few quick bucks. When friends at the market asked where Tina was, he made up a ton of stories. She had a terrible infection from dry rot in the house. She had to go to England for treatment. She has a serious respiratory illness. That black jacket and dress Tina had just happily bought on her last Sunday, cops found them, still hanging on the living room door. She never even got to wear them. Do you see the two different people here? The grieving Richard on TV begging his wife to come home, and the real Richard in private, in a hurry to give away a freezer and sell his wife's clothes. Does this blatant, hypocritical act make you feel extremely uncomfortable? If it does, let me know by commenting 2 below. The media saw the tears. Friends saw the red flags. The pressure was building. And finally, in June 2017, the police had to act. They conducted their first official search. They got very, very close. But then they made a fatal mistake.
This blatant, hypocritical act finally forced the police to do something. June 2017. Nearly 3 months after Tina disappeared, the police finally got a warrant for a full search of number 3 Grattan Street. They came. They were there. They were standing right on top of her grave. And then they left. This is the most tragic and frustrating part of the entire investigation. 10 police officers tore that house apart for 12 hours. And the first thing that hit them, the filth. Dog feces were scattered all over the floor and furniture. Dirty dishes were piled up. The parrot cage hadn't been cleaned in weeks, remember? Richard was the devoted guy bragging about bathing his wife 7 nights a week, rubbing baby oil on her skin. But in reality, he was living like a pig in a disgusting sty. And then, they went to the area under the stairs. They saw it. They weren't blind. They saw the obvious signs. They even took pictures. What did those photos from 2017 show? A newly built red brick wall under the stairs. Fresh plaster on the side. Relatively new unpainted steps. Clearly, it was a hasty construction job. Anyone with a brain would look at that and say, "Dig it up." But what did they do? They made 2 fatal mistakes. 2 mistakes that let this case go cold and let Richard Satchwell laugh at everyone for 4 long years. Mistake number 1. They trusted luminol too much. Forensic scientists sprayed luminol, the chemical that finds blood, all over the house. On the stairs. In Richard's car. It didn't glow blue. No blood. And they made a disastrous conclusion. No blood meant no violent crime. They were wrong. They didn't know there are ways to kill without blood. They didn't know Richard would later claim he strangled her. Mistake number 2. The unforgivable mistake. They saw the new wall. They saw the new plaster. But they didn't dig. They didn't drill. And most importantly, they didn't use a cadaver dog. A cadaver dog can smell decomposing remains, no matter how deep, no matter if there's concrete, no matter how long it's been. They had cadaver dogs, but they didn't use one inside the house. They were there. They were standing inches away from Tina's body. They took a picture of her grave, and then they left. They collected his laptop and phone, but found nothing suspicious at the time. No body, no evidence. The case went cold. Richard Satchwell had won. He had fooled everyone. He had buried his wife under the stairs, and the police came, stared right at the grave, and walked away. For the next 4 long years, justice seemed to be as dead as Tina. The police wasted time and money searching useless woods. Meanwhile, Richard lived comfortably in that same house, right on top of her body, until August 2021. Everything changed. The case was given to a woman, a new superintendent, Anne-Marie Toomey, and she decided to reread every single file starting from zero. For 4 years, Richard Satchwell lived a comfortable life. He had won. He fooled the police. He acted on TV. He had buried his wife under the stairs, and the police came, stared right at her grave, and then just left. The case went cold until August 2021. That's when everything changed. The case was handed over to a woman, Superintendent Anne-Marie Toomey, and she decided to reread every single file. She didn't waste time searching in the woods. She went straight to the evidence locker, and she found it. something that had been forgotten for 4 years. Do you remember that failed search in 2017? The police had collected Richard's laptop, and there it sat, gathering dust in an evidence locker. For 4 years. No one had even bothered to open it, until specialist Dave Kelleher plugged it in. And that is when Richard's wall of lies began to crack. The digital ghosts started to talk. They found his search history, and it sent a chill down their spines. Bombshell number 1. Quicklime. At 9:08 p.m. on March 24, 2017. Do you remember that date? That was the exact same day he drove 43 kilometers to Fermoy. The same day he played the missing wife role for the police. That night he went home and Googled, what? How to find my wife? Detective phone numbers? No, he Googled quicklime. He watched a YouTube video titled Quicklime and Water Reaction twice. Why? Why would an unemployed truck driver suddenly be interested in construction chemicals? Because quicklime has another, more notorious use. It's known to speed up decomposition. It's used to control the smell of rotting bodies in mass graves. He wasn't looking for ways to find his wife. He was looking for ways to hide his wife. This was the clearest possible evidence of a guilty conscience. But the new team wasn't done. They needed to break his core alibi. The Aldi story. Bombshell number 2. The Aldi lie is exposed. Richard's story. He drove 30 kilometers to Dungarvan and was gone for 2 hours. The truth? Cell tower data proved he was never in Dungarvan. CCTV from the Youghal post office, his own town, showed Richard casually collecting his welfare check at 11:10 a.m. Phone data proved he went straight home after that and stayed in the house for the next 100 minutes. The entire story about the Aldi trip was a fabrication. He lied about where he was. He lied about the time. Why lie? Why make up such a silly story about parrot food? Because he needed a window of time. He needed an alibi for the time of the murder. By lying about the Aldi trip, he had accidentally shown the police the exact window when the murder must have happened. Now they had it all. They knew he lied about his movements. They knew he researched how to dispose of a body. They knew he did it. What do you think was the most critical detail? The quicklime search on the same day he reported her missing, or the completely fabricated Aldi alibi? Let me know in the comments. The digital evidence was there. The lies were exposed, but they were still missing one thing: a body. In September 2023, Superintendent Toomey took all this evidence to a forensic archaeologist. This expert looked at those failed photos from 2017 and said, "That's a red flag. You have to dig."
The digital evidence had him. The quicklime Google search exposed him. The Aldi lie nailed him. For 4 years he had won. But now he had lost at October 2023, 6.5 years later. The police returned to number 3 Grattan Street. This time they didn't bring luminol. They brought jackhammers. Why did they come back? Because Superintendent Toomey had shown those 2017 photos to a forensic archaeologist. This expert looked at the clumsy brick wall and the new plaster, and she said, "That's a red flag, you have to dig," and so they came. Richard Satchwell was immediately arrested on suspicion of murder. The show was over, and this time they brought the secret weapon they should have used 6 years ago. A cadaver dog named Fern. Fern ran into the house. The dog didn't need to search. It didn't wander. It went straight to one spot immediately. Where did it start barking and scratching like crazy? At the exact area under the stairs. Pause. The same area the 2017 police had photographed. The same area with the fresh plaster. The same area they looked at and then walked away from. The dog confirmed it in 5 seconds. The justice that humans missed, the animal's instinct found. They didn't wait. They hit it with high-powered lights. They looked at the red brick wall. One detective said, "It looks like it was built by someone who doesn't know how to build walls." They pulled up the old 1970s linoleum flooring. And there it was, unmistakable, a rectangular patch of concrete, a different color, clearly newer than the floor around it. PM October 11th. They started the jackhammers. Sound effect jackhammer. The sound tore through 6.5 years of guilty silence. They drilled. The concrete broke apart. They drilled down 64 centimeters, over 2 feet. And then, They stopped. They saw it, something that didn't belong. A black plastic sheet. The excavation stopped immediately. The forensic archaeologist was called. The next morning, they gently brushed away the last layer of dirt. A human hand appeared. Noon October 12th, the body was removed. At the same time, Richard Satchwell was rearrested. He was standing at a bus stop. When he was charged with murder, he gave a cryptic reply. Guilty or not guilty? On October 13th, dental records confirmed what the entire country of Ireland was holding its breath for. It was Tina Satchwell, buried for 2,396 days, and the final detail, the one that tore her family's hearts apart. Her Tweety bird tattoo was still visible on her chest. The 6.5-year act was over. The lie had collapsed. The body had been found, right in the spot he walked over every single day. And when he was cornered, when his wife's body was pulled from the concrete, do you think Richard Satchwell confessed? Was he sorry? No, he made up a new story. That shameless self-defense act was his final lie. At the trial, he still pleaded not guilty. But it was too late. He could lie to the media, but he couldn't lie to the jury. They saw everything. They saw the quicklime Google history, researching how to get rid of a body on the same day he reported her missing. They saw the Aldi lie get exposed by phone data. And most importantly, they had to sit and watch 14 video clips. 14 different times of Richard Satchwell crying, acting, and lying to the entire country. It only took the jury 9 hours. The verdict: guilty. Guilty of murder. Unanimous. The sentence: life in prison. He will die in jail. Richard showed no emotion, but he had lost. Behind him, Tina's family cried. Justice, even 396 days late, had finally arrived. After the verdict, over 200 people held a candlelight vigil for Tina. Many even brought their dogs to honor her love for animals. Her ashes were finally laid to rest, buried with her brother and her beloved grandmother. The monster was locked up. The 6.5-year act was over. Finally, Tina Satchwell could rest in peace. This story was a long journey for justice. For you, what was the most satisfying gotcha moment? Was it when the dog Fern barked right at the stairs? Or when the jury had to watch all 14 of his fake crying clips? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to keep uncovering the darkest truths behind these cases, don't forget to subscribe.